Hey lovely, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Bernie of Kisima by Bernie, where we talk about all things related to faith and mental health. And so today we're jumping into the Year at a Glance workbook. In the past two videos, I shared a link of how you can get this free download. If you haven't already, the link is still going to be below. So click on it, download it. We're going to go through it page by page today. I've gotten some feedback that some of you did sign up for the workbook and didn't get it. When I tested it, it went into my spam folder. So check in your spam folder, because if it's the first time you're receiving an email from me, Kisima is a Swahili word. Sometimes it might, the computer might be like, girl, this is spam. So go check your spam folder. It should be in there, and then we can get to jump right into it. Before we do so, I realized that I failed to mention like the most important thing about goal setting, which is praying about your goals, fasting about your goals. And so in my blog today, I'm sharing 5 scriptures to help you during this process of goal setting. And these are scriptures I invite you to not just read and go over, but meditate on them, chew on them, pick one a day, and like really like let them simmer in your spirit, because we know that what we see in the natural is a microcosm of what is in the spiritual. And so when we are goal setting and we invite God into our goal setting, we're saying, hey, heaven, come and touch earth in this moment, and let the things that feel impossible in the natural, which are easy peasy in the spiritual, come and encounter my goals, right? We're inviting the God of all provision to open supernatural doorways into our goal setting and into the dreams and the goals and the visions we have, and ultimately the life that we want to live here. We have a God who said in his word that the thief, in John 10:10, I think it said, the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but I have come to give you life and life more abundantly. And more, in the Hebrew translation, when it says more and more, it means like there's so much abundance that God wants to give us. There isn't one word that captures the abundance. And so when God says more and more abundantly, it's almost like improbable, like exponential abundance is what he came to give us, but there isn't a word that captures that, which is what I'm saying. Like the spiritual is way grander than the natural, and therefore when we pray and when we meditate, when we fast, and when we connect with the Lord in our dreams and goals, then those things that feel impossible in the natural become smaller than the grand God we're inviting into our situation. So I'm going to have the link for that below, so go click on it. And without further ado, let's jump into this workbook. Okay, lovely people, so if you have been following my channel for the last 2 videos, you'll know that I have been offering a free downloadable workbook to plan your year at a glance, and I also promised that we would be going through the workbook together. So this is what the first page of the workbook looks like. Of course, it could look fancier, but we're not here for what the workbook looks like. We're here for the content we're putting into the workbook. And so when we go into oh boy, let me zoom in so that it can show. No, it's just okay, it's choosing to be 2-paged. Okay guys, and so that's page number 1. Page number 2, it's just a little message from me, just telling you a little bit about what inspired this workbook. Take a chance to read that. And then identifying your theme. I talked a little bit in the past video about how I don't work with resolutions primarily. I work with themes for the year, and from the theme I come up with goals, which count as resolutions, but concrete goals that have a plan, a timeline for execution, a concrete result. And so the Bible talks about in Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 2, which is right here. And the Lord answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that readeth it. What does that mean? It just says like, write it, right? Write it down. What do you want to do? Make it plain. And so that those who share it, which are the runners, and those who read it, can actually have clarity as well. Not just for you, but anyone who is working with you around accountability, around support, or people who are working with you around whatever goals you have. And so I talk about how connecting with your desire ahead, your theme helps you do that. It's like your grounding thing for the year. My theme this year is execute. I'm a great planner. I am focused. I am thorough, but then I get caught up in the details and I don't end up executing. So this year is my year of execution. And right down here, I just really want you to find somewhere that you can stick this. The theme is looking for you and not the other way around. You are already living your life. You kind of already know what's that thing that's going to tip you over the edge. In the beginning of this video, we talked about the 5 scriptures that and can support you in the process of even identifying your theme or asking God to make it clear. Sometimes the theme is right under our nose, but we're not able to see it or identify it, or we are so caught up in the details, like I said, I usually am, that we forget to see what the grander scheme is. It actually took back and forth with my best friend and even with my life coach to get to the theme execute. So, hey, it doesn't have to be just you. It can be through God and through an accountability partner to identify the theme. And then this is like my favorite part where we actually get to write stuff down. So, starting with the brainstorming, right up here with the pink page, it's what do you want, right? And like you get to go bananas here, right? Like you get to those things that feel just impossible, write it down. It could be relationships with people. Maybe you have strained relationships with family members, with a spouse, with colleagues or a boss. What do you want? Do you want peace in that relationship? Write it down. So yes, a relationship takes 2 people to make it work. However, we play a role in that relationship. Like, how are we maintaining status quo? And sometimes writing down that we want a peaceful connection or relationship with someone starts to show us what's in our control. Like, how can we be kind? How can we not get hooked into their bait of, when they spew venom, I spew venom. You know what I mean? Because that maintains the disconnection, it maintains the turmoil in the relationship. It could be money related. It could be I want to start a small business, or I have a business. I wanted to earn this much this year, or I'm looking for a job and I want my job to pay me this much with these kinds of benefits, or I want a raise at the job I'm already at, a promotion. Write all those things down. I want to get back into self-care, which is, let's say, meditating, getting massages, traveling. Write it all down, and it doesn't have to be in any kind of form or fashion. Just write it down. Like, I want a 5-bedroom house in California. I want to go see the northern lights. I want to travel to every continent by this year. Right? Like, you don't even have to have the timeline just yet. Just write what you do want. Right? Like, I want this outfit. I want a photo shoot. I want a marriage, a spouse, a loved one, an intimate partner relationship. I want a child. All those things go into this section, okay? Like, I'm trying to give example by example by example so that you can kind of see the wide range of possibilities in this section. Figure out what those are for you. Write them down. Some of us are so afraid to even think it because we've already, like I said this in the last video, like we count ourselves out before we even give ourselves a chance to dream and to have the life we actually want. We count ourselves out. And so think it, say it out loud, write it down. Let's say the dream doesn't happen. Fine. What kind of person do you become in the process of pursuing it? If you want a 5-bedroom house and you end up with a 4-bedroom, a 3-bedroom, a 1-bedroom, it is your house. If you want a $100,000 paid job and you end up with one that gives you 90, hello. You're that much closer to the goal than you would have been otherwise if you didn't even give yourself a chance to dream that big, a chance to be like, no, this is not negotiable, a chance to say, okay, there might be stepping stones between the $100,000 paycheck and where I am right now. That's fine, but maybe I'm going to hold out for another $5,000 offer. Maybe I'm going to hold out for a $10,000 offer. Maybe I'm going to get certification that's going to increase my chances of getting paid more in my field. Write it down. When you identify the how, when you identify the what, the how shows up for you, okay? And so it's not even enough to write what do you want, right? When we go into this page for focusing in, which is the blue page under why does it matter, what value does it bring to you, but also what value will you bring to the world once you get that thing, right? So it's one thing to say that I just want to get the $100,000 check, right? I'm going to stick to that. But what does that do for you? Like, I'm a believer, so it's going to increase my tithing. It's going to benefit my church. It's going to benefit the missions that the church works on. It's going to benefit all the different offices that we have, that we maintain, how that goes there. I'm gonna increase my giving, donating to nonprofits, and it's gonna benefit, my passion, let's say young women. It's gonna benefit mothers. It's gonna benefit men. It's gonna benefit people to connect with counseling and therapy. During our whole youth conference, one of our giveaways was 5 free therapy sessions, right? So in me being able to make that money, I'm gonna give back in this way. And so for you, identify why it matters. Like, why does it matter? Sometimes it's, because I deserve it. You know what I mean? Because I deserve to live a comfortable life, because the more I take care of me, the better I am to my family. I want to be a good caretaker for my family. I want to be able to live in a place that's secure, afford amenities that are convenient for me to, like, let's say, travel. If you're wanting to get a car, I do want to travel and get around. I love road tripping, and so it's going to allow me to see this world that God has created. And in going out to see this world, I get to connect with new people in new places, but also share pictures and have other people travel with me, right? Connect to your why. It all looks different for us, right? But notice if it starts feeling selfish. If the why is because I want to, because I said so, because I do, because I want it, because of me. Just connect with it. There's nothing wrong with you being the reason why you want this thing, but you also want to see what is the greater purpose for this thing, because it's going to motivate me to keep striving and thriving for more and more. It's going to provide for a family that I want. See who else gets to be blessed when you get blessed by the things that you want come into pass. Does that make sense? And it's okay, like, some of those things or some of the whys won't come up immediately, but this is an invitation to just meditate on why this matters to you, okay? And there's no right or wrong why. Just identify a why and identify how it can be bigger than you. And then in prioritization, which is this page right here, like, it's really making me upset that I can't see this in just one page at a time. Anywho, what needs to happen first? So this is a prioritization. There are some goals which are 10-year goals. And so those can be like at the bottom of the page. And there's some goals which are like, by February, I need to take my licensing exam or whatever, right? So that one might have to come up earlier, because the deadline for it is gonna happen sooner. So prioritize it, right? Like, what's most important right now? Is it a career goal? Is it a relationship goal? Is it a personal goal? Is it a mental health related goal, right? Some of the things that you might want is to connect with therapy this year, or to do family therapy. So have, like, you and your family members go to therapy. Write that down, and what needs to happen first, right? And what does that open up for you and your family members? And prioritize it. If you want to number them, you can. If you don't, you don't. But just write it down and get an extra sheet of paper, because you might have to make this list a few times. Or you might have so many things of what you want to happen, it might not fit in the page. Please, by all means, use as much paper as you want. Or if you're like me now, I'm becoming more digital. It's just, use your Google Drive to write the things down there. And so moving into the SMART goal section right here, I love this quote. I don't remember where I heard it, but I just made sure this time to actually know who the author is, and I won't even try to butcher their name. But a goal without a plan is just a wish, isn't that right? Like, oh, I want to have a house. Okay, you can want that all you want. But if you don't have a plan, I want to have a house by this date. I want to have a house by this date, and my financial goal to get that house is saving this much a year. I'm going to save this much a year by putting this much aside a month or a paycheck. If you actually don't have a plan, and then the goal remains just something that you want to have and something that might never come to pass. But also, it's not enough to just have a plan, but you have a plan and you actually have to execute the plan. And I talk about, like, automating as much as you can, especially with financial stuff. Automate your monthly expenses. Automate how much is getting out of your checking into your savings. Automate how much you're paying off on your balances for your credit cards. Automate if you have student loans or whatever. Automate if you're tithing. Like, it doesn't matter, like, what's happening in my life right now, like, this much money is going towards God. Like, automate it all and make it clear that this is an untouchable expense, so that whatever is left over after all the automation is like, okay, I get to spend this, and I get to spend this without feeling guilt or having to do kind of math on the spot, like, well, I need to have this much left in the account in order for this expense to come up. Blah, 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 blah. No, just automate everything, let it get taken out, and then you go from there. And so, again, in making the SMART goal, make it specific. What is the goal? Like I was saying before, if the goal is buying a house by when, right? I want to buy a house. What kind of house do I want to buy? How many bedrooms do I want it to have? What are the amenities? Garage, laundry, open layout, kind of a new like stainless steel chrome kitchen, marble tiling. I want it by the water. I want it in this specific neighborhood. Get as specific as possible, right? Like, where do you want it? What do you want it to look like? How do you want it to look like? What are the little nuances that are unique to you that you want in your home? And then measurable, right? Like, what is the way that I'll know I've achieved the house? What are the steps that need to be taken into getting the house? Does it feel realistic to actually get that kind of house? Okay, even if it's not tomorrow, but in the timeline that you want to give it, is it in 5 years? Is it in 10 years? Does it feel attainable? Or is it going to require support from other people and it's not guaranteed that they're going to be on board, right? If it's like, well, I want to get a 5-bedroom house and I want my dad to help me pay for it, but it's like, if dad is not on board, and so that's not an attainable goal. So just making sure it's something that feels responsible for you. Relevance, right? This kind of like we talked about before in connecting to your why. Like, why does it matter? What value does it add to you compared to the cost? When you do your cost benefit analysis, like, it ends up being more in your favor than not. And then time specific, like we were saying before, in how many days, months, years, decades do you want to achieve that goal by? And for some of you, it's like, I already have the house and now I have a mortgage. Go through the same process with your mortgage. Or right now I'm renting and maybe I need to downsize into a smaller apartment or a smaller space so that the savings is grander. Therefore, I can achieve my goal sooner. I mean, all those things, this is the opportunity to go through each goal one by one, but starting with the one at the top of your prioritization list of, okay, how can I make it as smart a goal as possible, and start executing. Because also when you go into the SMART goals and make it time specific, you also start realizing, well, if the goal is to happen within 5 years, what are the yearly checkpoints that I'm going to have, and how do you start plugging in those checkpoints? Like, okay, so by 2024, I want to have a house, but by 2020, I want to have this much in savings. Like, put a calendar reminder, like, check your savings, girl, make sure it actually has that much, because if it doesn't have that much, or if it has more than that, then you get to adjust your goal in both directions. Either give yourself more time or reduce the timeline. And so plug it in, right? This is where we're talking about plugging it in the calendar. So, like we said, some of the goals are like straightforward. What is it? I'm gonna pay off my credit card by March. Okay, so it's maybe 2 payments, or 3 payments: January payment, February payment, March payments. Great. Plug those in. How much is each payment gonna be? What time of the month are the deadlines for the payments? And then by March, plug into the March, like a little celebration. Like, after I pay it off, I am, buying myself dinner, or I'm going to celebrate, blah, 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 blah. And I like to break them up into quarters as much as possible, because it helps me to see my year in manageable chunks. If I'm just working like, okay, let me plug in the whole year in my calendar right now, it starts getting a little bit scrambled. And so if I start plugging in quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4, something that might be happening quarter 4 that I forgot to break it down and plug in, I can start, okay, go back into quarter 1 and add this small steps needs to happen in quarter 1 in anticipation for the quarter 4 goal. Hope I'm not confusing y'all. And so, right, like if it's a summer vacation, that's going to happen in the summer, but that's in quarter 2. By quarter 1, I want to start figuring out what airlines are offering the best deals, what's going to be my shopping plan for any clothing that I want to get for this specific vacation, what is an itinerary that I want to have, how much is that itinerary going to add to my budget, what's the specific budget I'm working with, all that stuff, right? If it's like renewing your passport, if it's getting like some shots, vaccines, immunization stuff, like, you really want to just get as clear as possible, and plugging it by quarters starts showing you a little bit more about what needs to happen, when, where, how. Then we can jump into plugging into your calendar, feeling like it's clear. So January, February, March, okay, these are the already quarter one goals that I've already written down. Plug them in. April, May, June. Okay, this is the stuff. Plug it in. July, August, September, November, October, November, December. Get the drift? Moving on. So quarter one, quarter two, quarter three, plug them in. Quarter four, plug it in. And then this is my favorite because I get to choose who's my accountability. So if you're feeling like the accountability section is something that you're not looking forward to, check who your accountability partners have been. Um, Somebody posted on Facebook. I think this is my best friend. She posted like, if you've had the same accountability partner and you haven't been reaching your goals, it's time for a new one. Okay, so check your circle. If you've had the same goals for the past 5 years, maybe it's you. You might not have been allowing your circle to really check you, hold you accountable, support you, know what your concrete deadlines are, and to check on you with them. But if you have and you still haven't been reaching your goals, it might be time for a therapist, a life coach, a different accountability partner altogether. Okay, because the beauty of accountability is also it helps you work a little bit smarter, not harder. I know I'm somebody who does this a lot. I always think that every goal I write down, I have to achieve it by myself, versus, oh wait, I get to do life with people and they can walk through this with me. And so um, think about it that way, that right now you're inviting somebody who helps you bear the awesome weight of these big goals that you're setting for yourself this year and some more years to come. But then also, that helps to support you, encourage you, pray with you, help you readjust the timeline, help you check how realistic stuff is, challenge you to be a little bit more disciplined, who gets to lift you up, but then also who you get to lift up with, right? If you're having them hold you accountable here, how are you holding them accountable? Have they downloaded this workbook too? Have they gone through their quarter one, quarter two, quarter three, and quarter four goals? And have you set your dates for like concrete meetings where you're following and checking in on your goals? Because that's another thing. It's like, oh yeah, let's be accountable, and then we don't set concrete dates for checking in. You should be checking in at least quarterly. I encourage monthly, because if we wait quarterly, if it's stuff that for 3 months you've been backlogged, then it's like, oh my gosh, had we met sooner, talked sooner, we could have figured this out. And so, yeah, get your accountability partner, plug in your monthly dates for checking in. They don't have to be in person. It could be through FaceTime, through WhatsApp video, through Skype. It could be through chat. And then definitely could be in person, especially if you're in the same state, city, borough, all of the above. Okay, so there's so many people who want to align with your vision. There's so many people your accountability partner might have as part of their network who can support your goals. And so that's another benefit of accountability, is if you have a pool of 100 people and they have a pool of 100 people, now you have a pool of 200 plus people to connect with, because that pool of 200 people also has their pool of 100 people, and just it keeps exponentially growing. So think about accountability in that way, that it's not just, oh, one-on-one, me and this person hold each other accountable, but no, one-on-one, me and this person get to connect each other with the multitudes of people we know in our lives who can help us get closer and closer to our goals, and actually get sharper and sharper in how we execute our goal attainment. Okay, lovely. So that's it. That is the end of the workbook. It was meant to be short and sweet so that the focus is on you getting the life that you want. It looks so different than mine, and that's neither good nor bad, not better, not worse. It just is. And so what's best for you is not best for me. What's best for me is not best for you. But this is a template to start really digging into what is the life you want, what is the 2019 that you want, and also the years beyond that. Okay, if you have any questions, like, leave them in the comment section below. I would love to hear about them. And then I'll meet you here again for the next video. Okay, until next time, later lovelies. Bye.